The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers.
Hello and welcome to Our Hamilton, Our Vote, the 2022 municipal election debates presented live by Cable 14 in partnership with our friends at the Hamilton Spectator. I'm Mike Fortune and I will be your moderator. For this debate, we have invited the candidates for councillor in Ward 7 to join us. There are only two, and tonight in studio we have Scott Duvall and the incumbent Esther Pauls.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much for being here. We know how busy your schedules are. As usual, our format includes 2 minutes each for the candidates to introduce themselves. Then our local media panel will be posing questions. Viewers at home, if you are watching our live broadcast, hey, send us a tweet at Cable14 or email election@cable14.com to share any questions you'd like to ask these candidates. And finally, we will wrap up the hour with an open forum for the candidates to question and respond to each other. All the candidates were provided copies of the debate format in advance so they are aware of what is going to be happening. I will also be doing my best to keep us on track with what's expected for each section. With that said, let's get started with our 2-minute introductory statements. If needed, you will get a 10-second warning before I call time. Up first, candidate Scott Duvall.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you, Cable 14 and the SPEC for this opportunity, and to the engaged Hamiltonians and Ward 7 residents who are watching. My name is Scott Duvall, and I'm happily married after 48 years. I've been blessed with 3 daughters. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. And I've also lived in Ward 7, by the way, for 25 years. Beginning my work at life as a steelworker and then local union president, I was instrumental in saving hundreds of well-paying jobs and pensions for the workers and their families at Stelwire during the bankruptcy and subsequent sales of Stelco Inc. Elected as the Ward 7 councillor in 2006, I was committed to the concerns of residents, working hard on their behalf, always accessible and responsive. As councillor, I secured many upgrades to parks, roads, transit, while preserving green space in many communities. I'm extremely proud of my work to completely renovate Inch Park, making it the first accessible park in Hamilton and the home of Challenger Baseball. Serving on the Hamilton Housing Committee, I advocated and helped implement improvements to our city assets where many seniors and vulnerable people call home. As part of the Board of Directors for Concession Street BIA, I was able to bring forward the concerns of small business owners to City Hall and move forward with a complete renovation of the street. In 2015, I left this council to become the MP for Hamilton Mountain. It was a difficult decision, but after seeing the hardships that are faced by many residents every day, I knew I could make a difference for working people, seniors, and those living with disabilities at the federal level. I fought hard on these issues for 6 years, then I decided to pass the torch to other very capable MPs and retire in 2021. I hope that a change of councillor in Ward 7 would bring about a new and maybe better ideas, but that was not what I saw when I returned home full time. I believe I can help our city move forward with fresh ideas, new perspectives, a vision for the future, and the experience to make it happen.
Scott Duvall, thank you very much for that introductory statement. We will now move on to Esther Pauls.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Esther Pauls, and I was born in Italy. The Pauls family has lived in Ward 7 for the last 60 years, and I was honored to be elected in 2018 as the ward councillor. Prior to serving as your councillor, I worked at the Royal Bank, worked for and ran a small business, including an insurance brokerage. I've been involved with dozens of Hamilton charities, such as City Kids, Liberty for Youth, Wayside, and most recently, we raised $50,000 to fund 24 new independent living rooms at Oakfield. Serving people both personally and professionally is my passion. There are no greater feeling in my role as a city councilor than having helped someone from Ward 7 that contacted me by office with an issue, whether it be related to city services such as garbage, snow removal, or situation involving property standards, or safe streets and sidewalks. As I look back over my 4 years, I am pleased with what the contribution I have made for Hamilton, and more specifically, proud of all the deliverables from the residents from Ward 7, including roads, sidewalk improvements, increased accessibility measure, increased opportunity for leisure, health, wellness, with the creation of pickleball courts, park expansion, renewal, including Mountain Drive Park, Eastmount Park, Vincent Massey Park, Inch Park, Sam Lawrence Park, and many more parks, Macassa Lodge, and Sackville Senior Center. I assure you, the residents of Ward 7, that if I'm elected, I will not abandon you.
Thank you very much. That is our 2-minute
Thank
introductions. Thank you so much. We will now continue on. We will bring in our local media panel now. With us for this debate are Fallon Hewitt from the Hamilton Spectator and, of course, Al Sweeney. He's back from CHCH News. Each of our reporters will be choosing a candidate to answer a question, and then the other candidate can also respond. Make sure you indicate if you want to. All of your responses will be limited to 1 minute. I'll give a warning when time has run out. Our first question comes from the Spectators. Fallon Hewitt, take it away.
My first question is for Scott. So in an interview earlier this year with Hamilton News, you described the current city council as dysfunctional and antagonistic. If elected, what could be done to improve relationships around the Horseshoe?
Well, thanks, Fallon, for that question. I'm really surprised about the way some of the councillors have acted this last term. And we all in there are doing a hard job trying to work as best as we can. And I think there has to be what they call respect for each other. Even though you might not like what that person is trying to do or what he's trying to accomplish, or if you give a little smart remark, that should never be happening. Everybody has to be treated with each other with respect. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. It's just going to be a little madness going back and forth. If you want to do that, do it behind closed doors. If you don't want to do that, then do it in the public. You do it with respect. And it's the only way to work together to collaborate and try to help each other out instead of fighting with each other.
Councillor Pauls, would you like to respond to this?
Yes, I will. Actually, I've been in council now for the last 4 years, and I would say that it's been hard because of COVID, because of extra pressures, because of all the things that's been happening at City Council. Some of them get emotional, some of them get, really defensive. But I want to say overall, I can honestly say we do work well together. There are some that think differently, and that's fine. But I think because of the situation we're in, but I think whether federally or province, I think they have quite a bit of discussion themselves. And I think we do want to work together, and I'll make sure, I've always worked together with everybody, and I'll make sure I'll continue to.
Thank you very much for that response. Unless there's any further debate on that, we will bring up Al Sweeney from CHCH, who is back. Al, please take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. So, Esther, I'll ask you this question. I'll ask you first, and Scott, you'll have a chance to answer it as well. We're in a housing crisis right now. It's an overwhelming issue for every political level of government. And there's a lot of talk about affordable housing, but anything that's happening so far, it just seems to be a lot of talk, and there's no indication when affordable housing is going to come along. So, Esther, is there anything that the city council can do to help people who can't afford to buy a house, whose rent is going up, they can't afford to pay the rent? Is there anything the council can do, and what would you do?
That's a great question. But as you know, and everybody in the city of Hamilton knows that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There is a variety of housing requirement. Funds are needed from all levels of government. I've supported permanent housing for 400 homeless individuals. We have done well in the city, actually. 400 new affordable housing units. Rent-to-gear income housing for 700 households. And repair, I don't know if everybody's aware, we have repaired 6,000 city-operated units. So I just want to say that the housing is such a hard topic to really get solved until we get all levels of government coming to the table and figuring it out. So we all struggle. Even people with jobs are struggling to pay their bills. With high interest and inflation, it affects us all. So this must be a 3-level government solution.
Thank you for that response. Mr. Duvall.
Sure, and then thanks, Al. Great question. One of the things that I get kind of frustrated at when I hear people talk about affordable housing. And I'm talking about affordable. Affordable is a weasel word because nobody knows what it means. Affordable to you might not be affordable to me. I believe what we need is to have to go back to co-ops. We can use our city property land, but we need a national housing strategy because it's not just a Hamilton problem. This is a Canadian-wide problem. I've had the opportunities to go across the country, and I've seen it, and it's, Hamilton's bad, but then you go to Vancouver and Toronto, it's just out of control. I was a steel worker, and any steel worker, when we raised our families up in Hamilton, we could actually buy a house, raise a family on an income of a steel worker in those days. A steel worker is making a little bit more money today, but it's out of sight. They cannot get that type of housing cost. So we have to make sure that we help out with all national governments, our provincial government and the municipal government, sit at the same table and do this out.
Thank you very much for that response. Councillor Pauls, would you like to continue this conversation?
Yes, I will respond to that. I was consider for affordable housing, and Scott's right. What's affordable to you might not be affordable to me. So 30% of our household finance should go into housing. So I think with the federal putting a $2.3 billion housing strategy for Canada, I think it's important that we find out where that money's going and how we as the city could dip into that and help our residents here in Hamilton.
Wonderful.
And Mike, and also just to include that, the funding that the federal government has been announcing, it's all back-end loaded. It's for another 20 years. We need the money today so that these projects can go forward, so that everybody can get started on the planning. But we have to call it geared to income housing. We can't call it affordable housing.
Thank you for that response. Again, folks, if you are at home and watching and would like to submit a question, please do so by tweeting us at Cable14 or emailing election@cable14.com. We did have a question that has come in from one of our viewers. I will direct this one to Scott, and then Esther, you'll have a chance to respond back. Our city streets are an absolute mess with garbage. Do you have any ideas on how to deal with this problem?
Yes. And I appreciate that question because that's one of my burrs that I have. We have to start getting departments working together. I know we have the roads department, we have parks department, and we have our own sanitation department. But if there's garbage in the parks and the roads it's beside, say, a median, we have to call the department to get it picked up. We have trucks on this street every day. And I don't understand what I see as the garbage. that they're driving by, why they can't stop and pick it up and put it into the back. So there's lots of ways to do it, but one of my initiatives that I would like to work out if I became councillor is to go to the departments and start working together instead of separate identities. And if one has to charge the other one for the service, then that's fine with me. But we have enough workers out there that can actually help, okay, to clean up the mess that we're having. And I've seen some disturbing spots that sits there for 1 or 2 weeks that should never happen.
I would love to
Candidate
respond
Pauls.
to that. I don't know if the city's aware, we are short-staffed in Hamilton. I have called staff to cut grass, pick up garbage, and really they are short. But I have some good news. I have a beautiful gentleman, John Gabriel, which I'm honoring. He picks up garbage every day on Mountain Park. I'm having a celebration, what he has done for the last 10 years, picked up garbage. So I think as a community, we need to involve ourselves. When we see garbage at the park, try to pick it up. We do want the city to be there, but like Scott said, sometimes everybody's working in their own little silos. So we do need more staff, but I would reach out to the community. Go for your walk. Have a garbage bag. And pick up the garbage, and we'll all help Hamilton. Thank you.
Final comment to that, Scott?
Yes, and I also believe that we should be having more bins, garbage bins to be put out. Some of the parks have only have 1 or 2, maybe at an entrance or some other side. If we look at our bus shelters, they're overfilled. I don't understand why it takes 3 days to go and empty an overfilled bin. But it has to be a more time consecutive period of when that's going to happen. And when we look at some of the people, they're actually throwing their own bags in our bins. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, they don't want to go to the dump, I guess, and pay a fee. But this has got to stop, and we do need more garbage bins put out for sure.
Thank you very much for that. Back with her second question from the spectator, Fallon Hewitt.
My next question is for Esther. So, Council has decided to freeze the urban boundary. What do you think is the best way to achieve more density within your ward, and how do you balance that with the concerns raised by your constituents?
Okay, yes, we had, as everybody know, we had a survey done to see if we to expand. As everybody knows, our city is growing. People love coming to Hamilton. We will estimate that we'll have over, 250,000 extra people in the next 10 years. So we do need to grow. We have to do it smartly, though. We have to make sure where high-rise are accessible to transit, to local farm markets, we could build. And I think there is a difference between farmland and wetlands. We need to know where we can grow. And with the province, we are sending in our request saying where we'll grow, and we need to work together. But it does make a difference where you're going to intensify. Is it a downtown more, spread out in the mountain? And these apartment buildings, I know in my area there's going to be a couple at 14-story high. But we have to give choice to people as well. Thank you.
Candidate Duvall.
Yes, and it's a very good question, and something that I've been thinking about and not listening to the people at the doors. Council has made a decision not to expand the rural boundaries, and that has to be respected. Our problem is now we get people being pushed back and saying they do not want these high rises in their backyards. Mm-hmm. The second one, the option that they do is you can make duplexes and triplexes, and now we're getting neighbors in the areas, the single-family homes are objecting to that and saying, I don't want that in my neighborhood. I don't know who these people are. So we need proper planning. So if we're gonna intensify and we're gonna go up, we have to do it smartly because we got to make sure that the roads are wide enough. There's parking. We got to make sure the parks are there. I listened to a person last night and said, not in Ward 5, do it downtown. We have to do the whole city. Okay, everybody has to have their fair share, including Ancaster.
Candidate Pauls?
Yes, I've been knocking on doors all day long, 7 hours a day. And I want to tell you, people are saying, not in my backyard. So we have to realize that and respect that, but we also have to grow. We have to realize that Hamilton is a happening place. People are coming here. So, and we have to make sure when we build high rises that there is enough parking. And when we do turn a 1,200 square foot home that there to 3 families, make sure there's enough parking for that street. So yes, people are concerned, and we have to smartly grow. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. He's back from CHCH. Mr. Al Sweeney, your question.
Thank you. Scott, a question for you. Part of your platform is about transit, improving bus service on the mountain. That's pretty much what it comes down to. What's the problem now? What's the situation now, and what would you do about it?
Well, the bus service that we're getting up on the mountain, there hasn't been much improvement over years. I remember when I first came councillor, we didn't even have bus service on Rimo Road. Well, we got that going, but it seems to be too long of a time of waiting time compared to downtown. And people want that same type of service as they're paying the same amount of taxes. What I believe that needs to happen is, I'm hoping that when the LRT comes in, that would alleviate some of those buses and bring them up the mountain to have a better time schedule. Right now, my daughter, who's a big bus user, when she goes from Upper Sherman and Mohawk to Rimo and Upper James, takes her an hour and 20 minutes by bus. That's unheard of. I mean, I can drive to Toronto faster than that. So the interconnections, we need better connections when one bus goes one way and the other bus goes the other way. The timing has to be a little bit better. But I think 15 or 20 minutes waiting times could be done up on the mountain, just like it is downtown, and then to help the people.
Candidate Pauls?
Thank you. As you know, because I've been in council, that we have a 10-year plan. We are halfway. And the problem's been COVID hit 2 years ago, almost 3, I should say. So a lot of people weren't taking transit. So we have lost time. But I believe we could get it back by showing people that our buses are clean, they run smooth, and they also are on time. And that's going to take time. But I think we should make sure people know that in order to have congestion, there's so many cars out there to take the bus. So it's going to take time because now I hope we're out of the pandemic, the people will take the bus more often.
Well, and I hope everybody will start taking the bus more. But however, I'm not here to blame COVID on everything. This was happening even before COVID begins. Nothing has changed from there since that time. I know some people have written into the HSR asking for better service, asking for better transportation, a better route. None of that stuff isn't happening. So we can't blame everything on COVID when this is happening prior to COVID.
Can I respond to that? I agree 100%. I will not blame everything on COVID, but it's obviously when the government shut us down, shut business down, shut workers down, why would they take the bus, Scott? They wouldn't. So the bus ride when diving, it was unbelievable. And I know because I had the figures. I was at council. So I'm not blaming on COVID. I'm just saying people did not take the bus because business weren't open.
Any responses to that, Scott?
No,
You're okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. We will continue on. More viewer questions are coming in. Thank you to all. Continue to send them to Cable 14 on Twitter or email election@cable14.com. This viewer says, or asks, I should say, Hamiltonians feel unsafe on our roads and our sidewalks. Pedestrian and biker collisions have now become an almost weekly occurrence. Do you recognize this as an issue? And if so, are you planning on doing something about it? This question is being directed to candidate Pauls to start.
Thank you, Mike. And I know about the accidents that have been happening, especially in my ward on Upper Wentworth. And I want to tell you that I've started already a street study to determine unsafe areas. And I will undertake that on Upper Wentworth Street. I will continue to implement traffic calming measures such as signs, speed bumps. And the most important thing that I will do is a public awareness campaign can also be underscored that safety isn't just about infrastructure. It's about being attentive and responsible, whether you're driving, cycling, or walking. I have seen people walk with their earphones on, listening to music. I have seen cyclists sometimes not paying the laws of the land. And I've seen cars go through stop sign. So we need public awareness, all three. The only difference is that if you own a car, you have a weapon in your hand, and you have to be careful. And I was saddened when a 49-year-old man died on Upper Wentworth, and then a 52-year-old man. And my heart goes to the family, and we will take a review on the safe of the street. Thank you.
Candidate Pauls. Scott, your response.
Yes, and I believe somewhat more things can happen. I mean, we do have a city problem with some of the cars, the automobiles racing down the streets way too fast into our children's area when the schools. We've done signs, we've done flashing signals, we've done as much as possibly we can. But can we do more? Yes. Advanced green signals, big, huge intersections, maybe scrambles. Things have to be done. I know the speed bumps has become a big thing now. Everybody wants them on their street. Everybody. Because when you put them on one street, the cars go on to another street, and they say, well, this is happening to me now. The problem is the cost. These bumps are about $7,000 a piece. So can it be done everywhere? We're going to try. But we also need enforcement, and we have to have public sanity. Okay, some cars, why they're doing this and coming down in private streets or small residential streets at that speeds and going around corners is beyond me. And the same as some of our sidewalks have to be widened. Now we got scooters, we've got mobile devices, we have everybody, the people on the bike lanes, if there's not one, they go onto the sidewalk. Everybody's fighting for a little bit of room. So I believe that we have to make some more improvements, but what is the cost going to be? And when are we people going to smarten up about driving recklessly as much as they can?
Candidate Pauls?
Yeah, and I think that's why public awareness campaign is important, to tell the citizens of Hamilton that no matter where you're at, you have to be careful, especially in roads where children are playing. So I think it's Hamiltonian need to realize that we can't send the cop in every corner. I've called the cops so many times for certain areas, and they have their hands full. So we have to take responsibility, and I think a campaign was saying, slow down. In this world, it seems like it's spinning so fast. Everybody's in a hurry to go somewhere. We need to say, slow down and really take care of your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for those responses. We will now throw it back to Fallon Hewitt from The Spectator.
Thanks. My next question is for Scott. So last summer, the Sir Johnny Macdonald statue in Gore Park was brought down by activists. What is your position on what happens next to the statue, given the state of relations between the city and Indigenous residents?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I have my own personal views, but I also understand some other people's views of celebrating some type of history that happened way before my time. And why are we putting those statues up? But it's part of history. I do believe it belongs, but I know I'm going to have a lot of comments and people saying it shouldn't belong. So it really doesn't bother me. I shouldn't say it really doesn't bother me. It does bother me of what we're going to do in the future, but how they were destroying it, I think, was reckless on people. I watched that thing come down. I just happened to be driving downtown that day, and I thought that was a little bit too far. But they were sending a message to us that they did not want people like this in past history that did some wrong things to them being celebrated and being idolized on their ground. So I think all the groups have to work together and sit down and say, how can we actually do this that we can make a compromise to everybody that it would be to honor the people that do want to honor and the people that don't want to honor. So we have to find a way.
Candidate Pauls?
Yes, I was just thinking as Scott was talking that nobody has a perfect life. Nobody is perfect. And we all fall short, actually, of this perfection. I want to respect the Indigenous people, but I also know that history, we learn a lot. We learn a lot about history. And so my thought is we should respect the Indigenous people, sit down at the table and see what we can do about it. But let's respect each other and let's learn from history. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for that response. Anybody else like to jump in on this? Scott, you're good? Okay, we will continue on then. From CHCH, making his way to the podium, it's Mr. Al Sweeney. Take it away, Al.
Thanks, Mike. So, Esther, I just wanted to ask you your position on vaccines, just to get this clear. So, my understanding is you're not opposed to vaccine. You've been vaccinated yourself, but you are opposed to vaccine mandates. So what do you think should happen on September 30th when city employees this is my understanding, city employees who aren't vaccinated could be fired? Is that the case?
That's not the case, because in August we reversed it. And I want to tell you, I'm not here to debate about vaccine, whether you should take it or not. The one thing the council did that I was very disappointed, in the whole 6 months that we talked about it, not once did they mention the cost. It's just like saying, what is the cost of firing 500 people? Not one person brought that up. So May 31st, they're supposed to be all fired, and I extended it. And the thing why I extended to September 30th was because my taxpayers of Hamilton, Ward 7, need to know how much it costs. So on, I think it was in August, Laura Fontana, she did a lot of work. I respect her so much. And she said it was going to cost us a lot of money. She actually said, I don't know how much, but just one union was going to cost us almost $7 million. Now, you know we have more than one union. So I did the multiplication, people that weren't unionized. I did the multiplication, and it was probably around 50 million to 80 million. Now, who's going to pay for that? So that day, we decided, City Council, we put a motion because I did need one councillor to accept that we would talk about it again, to reconsider, and we did. So we reconsidered, and it was passed that they do not have to be vaccinated, and they could have their job. And thank goodness we did that.
Thank you for that response. No doubt it was a hot topic. Scott Duvall, your response, if you like.
So having the vaccine mandates that was pushed in by the provincial governments and the federal governments, by the way, so the municipal governments had to follow. And they did it for safety reasons, to protect their own environment and their workforce. I believe in science. I have it myself. However, I have to respect the people that do not want it, and for the reason of, there could be religious beliefs, it could be their own health reasons, and it could be that they just don't want anything injected into their body. That's their right. We cannot control that to another human. However, in saying that, I think this municipal government in Hamilton really got caught up in what the province was doing, and then they were trying to justify why they made that call. I don't believe for 1 minute, and I have to say, basically thank you to Councillor Pauls. Nobody should be fired over this. Mm-hmm. Nobody. I'm a union guy. So what is the answer to that? Well, when the mandate comes down, when the province has done it, then when COVID is actually over and the science says it is, then you bring them back to work. Okay? Or otherwise the people can look at it and say, what do I do? But nobody should be fired because of they have a belief of what they believe in of putting something in your body that they don't want to have.
Can I respond to that? Actually, there is a little correction. I talked to Mr. Ford. I called him that day. He answered the phone. I could not believe it. I talked to him. And I said, did you, all 64,000 provincial employees, did you fire anyone? No. Teachers did not have to get vaccinated. Did everybody know that? No. But I found it very strange that they did not mandate it. They suggested everybody has it, but they did not let go none out of the 64,000 provincial. And he said it's up to the institution. It's up to the workplace. And I think Hamilton did a disservice in a sense because they didn't consider the cost. Now, that's all I'm talking about. It's the cost. It's not whether I believe vaccines or not. Everybody should have a choice, in my opinion. But it's the cost that really made me angry.
Thank you for that response from both of you. Al, thank you very much. We will continue on. Again, if you are at home right now watching live, please send us a tweet at Cable14 with a question or election@cable14.com, and we will try to get it on air. Both candidates have significant experience on City Council. Would you promote change in Hamilton by championing every other week garbage collection following the lead of both Halton and Peel regions, keeping recycling a compost every week? We will start with candidate Pauls.
Oh, that's very interesting because I had few of my constituents call me, and some of them have lots of children or they have lots of garbage, and they're afraid that if they wait 2 weeks, it would smell, it would in their garage. So I have to really think about it. I believe that if it saves the city some money and we can do it properly, and it works out, then we should look at it. I'm always ready to look at things when I'm not 100% sure. But I want to be able to say to my constituent, we'll look at it. If it makes sense, if it saves money, if we could do it properly, and then we'll look at it and we'll implement it. But it has to do all those A, B, and C. Thank you.
Scott.
Yeah, so I remember this this issue a long time ago when it came up of going from 3 bags to 2 bags to 1 bag. So I remember at council we were all so overtired we didn't even know what we were voting on anymore and how many bags we were allowed to put out the next day. But I think what was happening when we went to the 1 bag was a huge change to a lot of people. And some people did adjust, but others could not. And then we come out with the tags, and that was because we were charging people, even for 1 bag of garbage, if they took it on their own to the dump. So garbage was going all over the place. It was going into parks, it was going into companies' bins, they were doing it, they were dumping it, they were doing anything they could. So making it once every 2 weeks, I don't see how that's going to improve it. We're going to go back to the old style where people are just going to dump garbage all over the city, and we're going to be paying for that cost for our city employees to be picking it up. I don't see how saving money once every 2 weeks is going to happen. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think 1 bag is legit. People are doing some very, very good work, and some other people just can't because they don't know how. And sometimes you got to be an engineer to recycle in here in the city of Hamilton to figure out what's garbage and what's not. And then you get so mad you just throw it in the bag. And so I'm cut off time, I understand.
Thank you. I want to respond to that because I remember being at City Council talking about this, and I remember clearly somebody says, oh, it's only for household. It's not for apartment. It's not for city housing. So they would get picked up every week, but the individual home, which has 1 bag, it's every 2 weeks. We reduced them to one back. So like I said, it has to line up. For me, I think it should be every week, but we need to talk about it. And that's why we talk about issues at City Hall. That's what it's about. Your idea, my idea, another councilor idea, and then we'll come out with the right resolution. Thank you.
And Mike, just on top of that, sometimes we have to take a look at what we try to put in as a policy. So when I'm looking at the garbage, the issue, and the recycling, most of our public buildings don't even recycle. It looks like they recycle inside, but guess what? It goes into one dumpster on the outside. And I brought that issue up many, many times, that this has got to stop. So if you're going to promote and push the people to do their job, then we should be leading by example in the city of Hamilton to do that.
Thank you very much for those responses. We will continue on now. One more round of questions. Time is allowing it from the Hamilton Spectator. Fallon Hewitt, she's back.
My next question's for Esther. So the city has begun its review of the Hamilton Farmers Market, which does explore the option of private operation. Is that something that you would support, and why?
All right. I'm glad you asked that question. I've been on the Hamilton's Farmers Market for 4 years. And like I said, I'm not blaming COVID, but COVID threw a wrench at the Hamilton's Farmers Market. It's a 185 years old market. It's a great institution. Great people go there. Then COVID hit, and it went sky down from having 15,000 a week to 1,000 a week or less. So we have to look at it because it has to come on a rebound. I don't know if everybody's aware. We subsidize the Hamilton's Farmers Market. And I think we should look why we have to subsidize. It should be a model where they could sustain themselves. Sure, we want to help them. Sure, we are there for them. So we are doing a review of what is going to, so we're reviewing to see. I don't think it could be a partnership, maybe with private and city combined, or it could be just all city. But I think they should be able to stand on their own feet. And I'm all for the Hamilton's Farmer Market. I love it. I stayed right through the whole term.
Thank you very much for that response. Scott?
So in the farmers market, I know when I was on council, there was many arguments, and sometimes there was just a battle between the city and some of the board's members. I believe it should stay public. I don't believe that anything should go private when actually there's a public need for it. Our farmers do a great job that they're coming in there, but they got to pay their fair share, and they shouldn't be asking for subsidization, because none of the other stores or owners that on those streets that are trying to sell the same product, they don't get subsidized. So I believe that we got to stop this personal attacks on each other, or who's better and who's not, or whether it should be public or private. If we do go private, then they can buy the whole thing and to take their responsibility for it. That's how I look at it.
But it's a city building, so we own the building. So I think we need to understand it more. We did have a sponsor. Maybe we could get a great sponsor to sponsor the Hamilton's Farmers Market. But I think to look at it and do a review is what we're doing. So I hope everybody stay tuned, because it's going to be a great review on tomorrow. There's going to be a review with all the farmers that are selling, and it's going to be a great day tomorrow. Yep.
Thank you for that response. We'll move on now. Al Sweeney, CHCH, he's back. Your question, please, sir.
Thank you. Great debate so far. So, Scott, I'll ask you this question first, and then Esther, you'll have a chance to answer it. We've got two experienced politicians here. Scott, former councillor for this ward and member of parliament. Esther, the current councillor for the ward. So, Scott, why should people vote for you and not Esther? And then Esther could say why people should vote for her and not you.
Absolutely. So, and I thank you. And I really, truly believe our current councillor is trying her best, but she oversells and underachieves. What I'm getting from the door is that there's no responses, there's no callbacks, there's no follow-up. And even when I was in Ottawa, I was trying to help out on some situations. My office, when I was an MP, was getting calls because the counselor's office wasn't responding and they didn't know who to go to ask for help. So I just feel that things have been neglected. I've seen them, I watched them. I know she's been in there for 4 years. She's made promises, but I don't see any action being done. And I made my decision there last Christmas that I had enough. So instead of yelling and screaming, that I go in there and fix the problems.
This is so ironic. I can honestly say that I've answered most 99% of my calls. Matter of fact, Mr. Duval calls me constantly. My street has a pothole. Come and fix it. How many times have I been to your house? I could count on it at least 4 or 5 times, making sure that his street, Folkestone, it's been fixed. Once it was fixed, he wasn't happy with it. He calls me again and says, I don't think they did a good job. So don't say I don't answer. You could say maybe you want to become a counselor again, but don't degrade that I have never called. I've been canvassing, and I can honestly say I already did 15,000 homes, Scott, and all of them, a lot of them are telling me, yeah, I vote for you. You know why? You answer my call. I have 2 phones. I carry them day and night. My husband says, put it away, and I don't. So due respect, I have answered every single call. Would I have missed one? Maybe. 2? Maybe. But most time I've responded.
Candidate
Thank
Pauls,
you.
thank you very much for that response. And of course, we are going to be getting into the open forum shortly. So if you'd like to continue that discussion, you are more than welcome to. And that is all the time we have. Again, a big thank you to our media colleagues for participating in this portion of our program. Now to the open forum, as I mentioned, where candidates have a minute to direct a question to other candidates. That candidate will have a chance to respond, and then we'll open the floor for any further discussion. I have a feeling there'll be a little bit of that. I will let you know if our time requires us to move on. We drew numbers ahead of our broadcast to determine the order for this segment. Candidate Pauls, you are up first.
Thank you, Mike. I'm looking forward to this part of the discussion. Scott, you were entrusted by the citizens of Ward 7 what would have been a 3rd term in the municipal election held October 27, 2014. Just 71 days after you got re-election at City Council, and just, think about it, 34 days after you were sworn in, you abandoned the residents of Ward 7 by opportunity jumping ship to, at that time, seeking the NDP nomination for the federal Hamilton Mountain riding. And you cost us over a 6-figure expense from our reserves. My question is, why first did you abandon the residents of Ward 7 on their dime and not reimburse the city that was founded your political and how can your political dream, and how can we trust you not to selfishly change course again, as you did both in 2014 and last March when you indicated you are not running for re-election in 2021 federal election so that you can spend more time with your family. Do you think City Council is a part-time job?
Candidate Pauls, a response from Scott, please.
Yeah, and thanks, Esther. So one thing I want to get straightened out here is I said in my opening remarks that it was a very tough decision, but I didn't abandon Ward 7 at all. In fact, what I was doing is I was representing more of Hamilton Mountain as we were going through a terrible time with bankruptcies, and many pensioners were losing their job. There was an unexpected announcement that the NDP, our current, at that time, was retiring, and I thought I could make a better improvement. So I didn't abandon anybody. I actually was representing him in a different manner. The other parts of your question of would I do it again, I had not anticipated even to run this time. But as I said before, I'm doing it because I don't see the representation there now as that I felt that should be done and what I'm used to when I was giving it at council. So those are some of the reasons why I knew I figured you were going to ask this question, but I certainly didn't abandon anybody. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ran even as an NDP for Hamilton Mountain. And did I cost the city money? I don't know where, unless you're saying it's from a, I don't know, an election or whatever.
By-election.
But I do want to tell people, I stood that job out, and the day the writ was dropped, I continued to work as councillor with no pay, continued doing my job until the election was done.
We'll continue this discussion. Candidate Pauls?
Yeah, I'm just surprised, though, that you ran for council knowing that 34 days after you were going to represent them in a different way. You know, city politics is so different from federal politics. Federal is up here, and city is hard work, day to day. You know, garbage, fixing the roads, taxes, all kinds of things. So after 34 days, why did you cost us a by-election? Matter of fact, I want to tell you, when there was that by-election, I did not vote. I vote every time, but not that one. You know why? I was so upset that we had to have another election. And then Donna Skelly got in. And I want to tell you, only less than 20% voted, went to the polls, because one election after the other, it's just like a revolving door. If I'm elected, and I promise you, Hamilton, City of Hamilton, I will respond to you, and my promise means a lot to me. If people know me, it means a lot.
Response, Scott?
Yeah, so I again, I was unaware of the election that was at of the federal election, and that the NP, that current NP, Ms. Charlton, was going to retire. This was after the election. So when opportunities come available on something that's going to be so, you can make such a difference for all the pensioners, and not only the city of Hamilton, but for all of Canada, I thought that was very, very important. As I said, it was a tough decision. It wasn't easy to make, but I wanted to get it out as early as possible to let people know that this was my decision to make, and they could do whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted to punish me, okay, they wouldn't have voted for me. I was successful in getting in.
Thank you very much for that response. We do have to move on to the next question in fairness, so Candidate Duval can respond now and get a question out to Esther Pauls. Scott, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And so, Esther, I've been reading with interest your campaign literature, where you commit to fixing crumbling roads, help small business, and improve HSR. Mm-hmm. You've had 4 years to at least tackle some of these items, and it doesn't seem much action is happening. Or I'm sure you would have mentioned it on your accomplishments section of your flyers. In 2018, you were asked on my street canvassing, and a neighbor asked about having speed bumps installed. Your answer to her was this: vote for me, and I will make sure you get them. 4 years later, 2 weeks ago, you were again canvassing on my street, and that very same resident asked you where were the speed bumps. Your answer to her: vote for me, and I promise you will get them in the spring. So why would anyone want to believe that you will carry through on your promises to Ward 7?
I'm so glad you answered that. Matter of fact, I think it was you that called me and said, where's the petition you're putting speed bumps? Some people don't want them. And I said, you want me to show you the petition? On Folkestone, I want to tell you, it is too late, and you should know this. In order to put speed bumps, Scott, you need a motion. You need to go in front of council. You need to get the money. We're on lame duck. So I don't recall when I went door to door in your neighborhood, I said, I will put you speed bumps because you did a petition, but I can't do it now. We're a lame duck. I can't put motion through, but you will get them in the spring. So get the story right, Scott, because I want to tell you, I went into your neighborhood and I got a lot of people saying they would support me, because I'll tell you, I work hard, and I do not say, if you vote for me, I will get this for you. I have never said that. I said I could not do it before the election because we're a lame duck. We will get them speed bumps in the spring when I put my motion in and when other council agree to it. So Scott, please get the story right, because that's what I've said.
Okay, and so I'd like to respond to that, Mike. So I'm hoping that you're hearing what I'm saying.
Yes,
Because
I am.
I asked you the question. You told this lady 4 years ago when you first ran.
No.
Okay,
Who's
well,
the lady? Let me know.
I want to let you know
Okay.
that you are on TV. So
Okay.
if you want to take that and saying that
That's fine.
these people are not telling me the truth,
that's not.
then so be it. But it's the same. That when I asked you about the speed bumps, about the petition, that was on another street we're talking about,
Right around your neighborhood.
right?
Yeah.
You explained to these people, and if you want to say that they're wrong, because it wasn't just one person, it was another person. They finally phoned me and they said, Scott, what is it that we have to take? And I asked them if they had a petition. They said no, and I go start one and then give it to her.
Right.
Okay, but before the petition happened, you told them 4 years ago you were going to do it. So
Can I say
don't tell me that unless you want to call
No,
them
no,
misleading.
I'll respond to that. I love to respond to that. Scott, I have never called anybody a liar, and I will not, especially in camera. I respect everyone in your area. I want to tell you, I had a meeting 2 years ago. In 2019, 4 years ago, I had just got elected. I had to find my way around, so I never heard anybody that wanted speed bump. But 2 years ago, even through COVID, I had a big meeting at the park, at Lawfield Park. And I remember people, I had about 50, 60 people. We want speed bumps. We want speed bumps. I said, yes, I will get you speed bumps. But as you know, they need a petition. And the thing is, we have to make sure I put speed bumps on the school. The only way I didn't do it, it was your street that it's around the corner because nobody gave me a petition. So again, residents of Ward 7, I am there for you. I am. If you want speed bumps, you get me a petition. I still have to have a motion. It still takes time. And there's a deadline when we could put them in. So I cannot put it in tomorrow. It takes time.
Time is running out very quickly, Scott. I will give you an opportunity to have the last word.
I'm just surprised at some of the answers that she's been bringing up. When I asked her about the speed, or not the speed bumps, but even the repairs, it took almost 6 months, Mike. It took 6 months to get it done on Folkestone. I had to phone 3 times, and then actually when it got done in June, and only because I had enough that we weren't getting any action, that I had to phone the staff, and in 2 hours they had a truck in there.
No.
So excuse me.
Unfortunately, to both of our candidates, we do have to cut this off. Time
Okay.
is
I would
running
love
out.
to
So
respond
unfortunately,
to
our
that.
time with our candidates has run out. Once again, they are Scott Duvall and Esther Pauls. This concludes our Ward 7 debate. Remember, it's our Hamilton, our vote, and Election Day is October 24th. You can find everything you need to know, including a list of all the candidates running for City Council, as well as the public and Catholic school boards, on the City of Hamilton website at hamilton.ca/elections. Please, can't stress this enough, get out and vote, whether in person or by mail-in ballot. Then join us right here that evening for all your local election results. And a reminder that you can find a complete schedule of all of our upcoming election debates on our website at cable14.com/elections. We especially invite you to join us on Tuesday, September 27th, beginning at 7 p.m. for the live mayoral debate. If you're watching us live tonight, please stay tuned for the Ward 8 debate coming up at 8:30. But right now, we bring you part 4 of our exclusive sit-down interview with Mayor Fred Eisenberger as he prepares to leave office. I'm Mike Fortune. We'll see you again soon.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Get your phones out, Hamilton. Scan the QR code on your screen to take you directly to cable14.com, where you can find out about our shows, see our TV schedule, learn about our hosts, and so much more.
The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
This is how a Reimagining Recovery Summit series at the World Trade Center in Toronto described Hamilton Mayor Fred Eisenberger. During Fred's tenure as mayor, Hamilton was named by the Conference Board of Canada for having Canada's most diversified economy in both 2018 and 2020. The Intelligent Community Forum named Hamilton one of the world's top 7 intelligent communities. A national advanced manufacturing hub with burgeoning life sciences and food processing sectors, strong education, research institutions, and creative industries that are attracting new economic investment and vitality to the city. Fred is focused on achieving continued growth and prosperity, as well as protecting our environment. He was instrumental in declaring a climate emergency in Hamilton, ensuring Syrian refugees were welcomed and settled in the city, and for putting forward a $50 million proposal to improve affordable housing and reduce poverty. Quite the accolades, Mayor Fred.
Well, you know, when I listen to that, I've not heard that before actually. When I listen to that, it really kind of covers a lot of the elements that we talked about, whether it was immigration, you know, welcoming refugees, which, you know, to this day, we are welcoming Ukrainians into our communities. And for me, it's a no-brainer that we do, you know, as much as we can to establish, you know, a life for them here as they're running away from some challenges in other places. Driving our economy to be more diversified has been a mission right from the very beginning, right back to the, you know, putting more money into the Economic Development Department to actually drive more opportunities, and that has led to being the most diversified economy in the country. And that, from where we've been as, you know, essentially a one-industry town, Stelco, DeFasco, manufacturing, to now education, research, healthcare, McMaster's, Innovation Park, and all of those elements. I hear elements of what we've been working on built into, you know, the quote that you just read. So it makes me very proud. Makes me very proud. And you know what? And it's not all on me. You know, I've done my part, but my role has been, in my view, is to empower the great people, whether it's in city staff or in the broader community in terms of business, to empower them to be able to reach our potential and put ourselves in a position to succeed. And that's really what my goal has been.
I think you have to add dash to the people and creatures you're thanking for being a part of those initiatives. And the Hamilton sign.
Yeah.
I think that is a lovely, iconic, very highly visible achievement that will carry your name with it. And
it's a statement, though. You know, it's you know, Hamilton.
Here we are.
Hamilton has arrived once again. I mean, we were a, you know, the leading you know, heartbeat of the country in terms of you know, back in the manufacturing days, maybe even the war years and prior to. And I think we've reestablished Hamilton as a significant national important city where great things are happening, both from an employment opportunity to culture. The music scene has blossomed, the film industry is blossoming. And so that sign is actually an indicator of Hamilton. You know, we're back, we're strong, we're proud, and we're progressing into a brighter future.
You had a trip back to Amsterdam recently with the family.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, and how did that play into your decision to not run for the mayor's office?
Well, you know, it was an so this is a three times canceled 40th anniversary trip for Diane and I. So originally booked in 2019, and of course canceled in 2020, canceled in 2021. So we thought, well, we're gonna go this year, and it was in and around obviously decision time for the mayorship, and I really hadn't kind of cemented it in my own mind. So it was an opportunity to kind of trace the journey. From Amsterdam, and you know, think about what we've gotten to, what we've been able to achieve here in Hamilton, And slowly but surely, it affirmed for me that it was time for me to, seek another path. That it was kind of my walk in the snow opportunity, if I might. But standing on the street that I grew up on up until I was 8 years old, and then reflecting on that journey, it really kind of came clear for me that it was probably time for me to let someone else take it from here. Because in some respects, I did not have an alternate vision to campaign on. I mean, I really didn't foresee myself running on more of the same. Even though current polling suggests that I polled very favorably in the last poll that was done, so at about 64%, which makes me very, very happy and I'm grateful for. But there comes a time where you overstay your welcome, and someone else needs to take on the reins and take it from here. And I'm hopeful that they'll build on what we've been able to achieve. And so the trip was affirming for me. There are more things in life than being mayor, and I cannot do it part-time. So it's 120% commitment for me. If I were to run again, I would not be comfortable just dialing it in. Some have suggested just get reelected and then just coast for the next 4 years. Well, that's not what I can do. So the only way for me to manage whether I was going to be working all the time or step back was to actually step out of the role.
A lot of new faces will be populating council.
Mm-hmm.
Did who was running and who was not running have anything to do with your decision?
No, not at all. It was totally a personal family, personal decision about what do I have another 4 years in me at the pace that I'm going at, and my answer to that was no. I might have another couple of years maybe, but it really needs 100% vision and commitment to do the role, I think, effectively. And I've done it for a lot of years. 12 years is a great run in anything these days. And so I'm very content with where we've ended up. Very pleased and proud of where I'm leaving the city, and others have lots to build on from here.
Public life costs a lot. There's a lot of sacrifices, and I know during this most recent term there was a lot of invasion of your personal property and lives. What do you think about that?
I worry about the dumbing down of public discourse and the aggressiveness of people that are prepared to do more than just debate, and so that's a worry. And I think there's division in the country or in the world, quite frankly, that is happening that I don't think is particularly helpful for good public discourse or decision making. So I'm hoping that there's a drive towards unity. That's something I've always tried to kind of relay and reflect on, and get people to collaborate together and work together, whether you're whether ethnic diversity or equity or different levels of inclusion. That we're all one people, and why create these great big divides? And so, but they're there, and there's no denying that that level of division has been amplified through the COVID process. And so, people are anxious and more emboldened to speak out, and social media has become a pretty vitriolic platform. And I would certainly advise any future mayor or councillor not to spend all their time on social media, because it's particularly corrosive. There's a good aspect to it, but there's also a very, very negative aspect to it. And that very negative aspect almost overrides the positive that comes with it.
I don't think total retirement is in the offing for you, though.
I don't think so either.
So I'm wondering what kind of options you may be looking at that you may want to share with us.
I'm really not. My commitment is I'm going to be the mayor until November the 15th, and I intend to fulfill that as fully as I have up until now. And there are many events. As it turns out, the moment I announced that I was leaving, more people want to see me. And, I'm happy to go there.
What's up with that?
Yeah. Well, as I said to some, the unbridled enthusiasm for my departure is a little bit unsettling, but it's all very good. I look forward to finishing off the mayorship, as well as I've done it over the last 12 years, and then don't know. I'd like to think that there's going to be future opportunity, but I'll leave that conversation till after the mayorship is finished.
But I have a feeling your family will be happy to steal more of your time.
Well, I'll be happy to give them more of my time. We have 2 young grandchildren, 6 and 2, and they're delightful. And families, are the ones that obviously get the short end of the stick sometimes through this entire process. And my family has been nothing but supportive, but I look forward to giving them some more time that I might have missed over the length of this political career. And so I'll do that. That's the opportunity to actually spend more time, more quality time with the very people that are closest.
Have you figured out the first thing you're going to do after election night is over? My therapy is tennis or squash. Okay. And so you'll probably find me on the tennis court somewhere, thrashing it out with somebody. Maybe my nephew, my 27-year-old nephew that I gave a racket to about 7 years ago and said, "You're going to learn how to play tennis." And he has, and he's now this close to kind of beating me on the tennis court, but he gets me out regularly and often, and that's good therapy for me. So I see many more tennis matches in my future, but beyond that, I don't know where we're going to go. Well, I'm sure we'll follow you somehow, wherever you end up going. And on behalf of so many Hamiltonians, Mayor Fred, I thank you for your service, your sacrifices, your family's sacrifices. You have represented this city with vision, compassion, commitment, and you've represented the city with class. And until we meet again, thank you.
Wow, thank you, Connie.
All the best in the future.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. And you know what? At the end of the day, an honor and a privilege to be able to serve our community, and thank you to all of those that gave me that opportunity.
This has been a Cable 14 special presentation, a retrospective interview with Mayor Fred Eisenberger. I'm Connie Smith. I want to thank you for watching, and always, always, whether it's a federal, provincial, or municipal election, town hall, what have you, have a say in the kind of world you want to live in. Get the facts, educate yourself, and exercise your civic right and your duty to vote. Bye for now.
We are the Elections Ambassadors, and we have spent the past 8 weeks visiting 96 locations across the city. We've been engaging with members of the community about the upcoming municipal elections on October 24th, 2022.
Over this time, we've heard from many of you with some frequently asked questions.
Today, we'll be answering those questions. This year, we have 157 polling stations on Election Day.
Eligible voters in Hamilton will elect these offices: Mayor, 15 City Councilors, 11 English Public School Board Trustees, 9 English Catholic School Board Trustees, 1 French Public School Board Trustee, and 1 French Catholic School Board Trustee.
You are eligible to vote this October if you are a Canadian citizen, are at least 18 years old, reside in Hamilton, or are the owner or tenant of land in Hamilton, or the spouse of such owner or tenant, and are not prohibited from voting. You can check to see if you're on the voters list or add yourself to the voters list online by visiting hamilton.ca/elections or by calling 905-546-4365.
Advanced poll dates are going to be held on October 7th, 8th, 14th, and 15th.
To receive a ballot, eligible voters must present a piece of identification showing their name and address, or complete a statutory declaration that they are an eligible voter. A list of acceptable forms of identification can be found by visiting hamilton.ca/elections.
If you're eligible to vote, but your name does not appear on the voters list and you do not have a permanent lodging place or fixed address on Election Day, you can complete an application to amend voters list at the polling station. You can use the address or the area where you've been sleeping the past 5 weeks before the election.
If you require assistance at the polling station, you can bring a friend along to help you or ask an election official on site for assistance. Your assistant may go behind the voting screen with you. However, they must make an oral declaration first.
If you are a student going to school and living in Hamilton but consider your home to be the place where you live while you are not attending school, you are eligible to vote in both your home municipality and in Hamilton, where you currently live while attending school.
All polling stations are accessible and are equipped with magnifying sheets, additional seating, and accommodations for assistance. Additionally, 15 polling stations, 1 polling station in each ward, are equipped with an accessible tabulator for individuals who require additional assistance to vote. We hope that this has been helpful. Remember to vote in the municipal election this October.
We look forward to seeing you there.
If you have any questions or want to learn more, visit hamilton.ca/elections.
Any eligible voter can request a vote-by-mail package to cast their ballot for the upcoming municipal election on October 24th, 2022. You can request a vote-by-mail package anytime from September 1st until September 23rd, 2022. You must be on the voters list to request a vote-by-mail package. A vote-by-mail ballot package includes a voting instruction sheet, a ballot, an inner ballot secrecy envelope, a voter declaration form, an outer return envelope with prepaid postage. Vote-by-mail packages will be mailed the week of September 26, 2022. You can only use black or blue ink to fill out the ballot. Do not use a pencil. Once you have filled out your ballot, place it in the secrecy envelope that is included in your vote-by-mail package. You must also sign the voter declaration form included in the vote-by-mail package and include it in your envelope when sending the ballot back. Place your inner secrecy envelope with your completed ballot and your signed voter declaration form into the outer return envelope. Return envelopes come with prepaid postage, so no stamp is required. Be sure to seal the envelope. Now it's time to drop off your sealed envelope. You can return it in person at a vote-by-mail drop box available at City Hall or any of the city's 5 municipal service center locations. You can also send your sealed envelope back via mail by placing it in a Canada Post mailbox. Make sure your vote-by-mail package is received by Election Day. This means you must mail it back by October 13th. Or drop it off at any of the municipal service centers by October 21st in the designated drop boxes. You can also drop it off at City Hall before 8 p.m. Election Day, October 24th. Remember to vote in the municipal election this October. If you have any questions or want to learn more, visit hamilton.ca/elections.
Tune into THN this month as we give you some of the events happening throughout the month.
Yeah, that's right. Lions Lair, also 12th year Dave Carter Innovation Factory.
We'll also give you a chance to win tickets to Disney on Ice at First Ontario Centre.
Yeah, we look ahead to see what's going on with the hometown Hamilton Bulldogs.
Love it. All this and much more right here on the Hamilton Network. Visit cable14.com/THN for airtimes.
There's no greater support than a loved one's embrace. When you participate in the kidney walk or support someone who does, you're showing your loved one that you've got their back. Whether you're counted on for trips to dialysis, for a transplant, or a listening ear, there's no end to the support you give. When you walk, you demonstrate just how endless that support is. Walk in your community on Sunday, September 25th. Register to walk at kidneywalk.ca.
Telling Tales invites you to open a book, open a world at Royal Botanical Gardens. Come and celebrate stories and nature with Canada's leading children's authors, illustrators, and storytellers in the enchanting rose gardens of Henry Park. Book lovers of all ages will be engaged with workshops, literary characters, music, and so much fun packed into each day. Visit Telling Tales to register now.
Upper Canada, 1793.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Vroomen would rather say you cross the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
Later, Chloe hangs laundry.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
She's forcefully seized by white loyalists.
Just get her into the boat, now!
Peter chases after them.
Chloe! Chloe, no!
Let me go! Chloe's restrained, then taken away in a rowboat. Historica Canada.
Word of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
I'm back! The Dylan Show returns this fall. There's a lot of exciting guests on my show this season. You don't want to miss all the episodes, including a special guest from the Brady Bunch.
I started playing softball when I was 4 years old. I loved it because it was all about having fun with my friends. And it still is.
From little kids to adults to seniors, softball is a sport for everyone. Join us.
If alcohol builds a wall around you that doesn't let you see where you're going, that keeps you feeling isolated and alone, that makes you feel hopeless, know this. We're here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a way out. For more information, visit aa.org and download the Meeting Guide app.
The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. Hello and welcome to Our Hamilton, Our Vote, the 2022 municipal election debates presented live by Cable 14 in partnership with the Hamilton Spectator. I'm your moderator, Mike Fortune. For this debate, we invited the candidates for councillor in Ward 8 to join us, and all of them are here in studio. This evening, we have Sonia Brown, Joshua Chernega, John Paul Danko, the incumbent, Anthony Frazina, and finally, Daniel Veltri. Thanks to each of you for being here this evening. We do appreciate it. We know how busy your schedules are. Our format, as usual, includes 2 minutes each for the candidates to introduce themselves. Then our local media panel will be posting questions. Viewers at home, if you are watching our live broadcast, please send us a tweet at Cable14 or email election@cable14.com to share any questions you'd like to ask these candidates. And finally, we will wrap up the hour with an open forum for the candidates to question and respond to each other. All candidates were provided, with copies of the debate format well in advance and are aware of how tonight will run. I will also be doing my best to keep us on track with what's expected for each section and how we are doing for time. So, with that said, let's get started with our 2-minute introductory statements. If needed, you'll get a 10-second warning before I call time. Up first, it's Sonia Brown.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Sonia Brown. I have called Hamilton home since 1977. I've been married to my husband, Rob, for 34 years. I'm the proud mother of 3 boys, Maurice, Matthew, and Michael, and a proud grandmother of 2. I'm also raising my cousin. I have worked in the corporate world for over 20 years. I have also worked in my husband's family business, a group home off and on since 1989. It was in 2010 I felt it was time to start my own business in Ward 8, one that involved working with individuals with special needs. I went back to school as a personal support worker through Mohawk College, and also I have taken my many courses through Canadian Mental Health and St. Joseph Hospital. In addition, for the past 6 years, I have volunteered and led a spiritual care group at St. Joseph Healthcare. I have always been a person that has looked for ways to pour into the next generation. For over 10 years, I have served as a volunteer and as a board member of City Kids. Myself and my family have also been a proud supporter of Liberty for Youth, an organization that helps at-risk youth ages 12 to 25. I've served on the Education Committee for the City of Hamilton, residential care facilities for 4 years, and I'm also a part of the Jamaica Foundation. I have always been a people person, a community leader, and an advocate for those who have not had a voice. I'm running in this election because I love my ward and I love my city, and I want to see real change in the area of affordable city housing and student rentals. I will fight against tax increases, and I will bring real change addressing residents' concern and be accessible and responsive with integrity and respect to my constituents. Thank you.
Candidate Brown, thank you very much for that. We will now move on to candidate Joshua Chernega. Please take it away.
Good evening. Let me first start by saying thank you to Cable 14 and their partners for hosting tonight's debate and giving the wonderful citizens of not only Ward 8, but our entire city, the opportunity to get to know who could potentially be leading our city into the future. My name is Josh Chernega, and I've lived, worked, and served our entire city for many years. As a teacher and an assistant principal with the Hamilton Wentworth Catholic District School Board for the past 15 years, I have worked and served in so many of our communities. In school, my passion is to see my students and colleagues succeed. I have the same passion when it comes to this city. I want to move this city forward, a city I love dearly. I have served the city in many capacities, from being vice chair of the Hamilton Farmers Market Board to former hopeful candidate in Ward 8 years ago, to working with a variety of charities in our community, in the city, and serving and helping along with an amazing team to bring an all-inclusive softball league to Hamilton. Each year, in the past 8, I have watched City Council become more and more dysfunctional at best. Councillors sit around the table and argue for their own special interests, often insulting and being discriminatory to each other if they don't like what others have to say. This needs to stop in our city. As your counselor, I believe in the importance of listening to everyone at the table and finding common ground and to build on that ground to create wonderful things. My message is clear. If you want a better Ward 8, our entire city must get better. When downtown and suburbs thrive, the mountain thrives, and vice versa. We are one city, and it is time for the people around our council table to understand that. Thank you.
Candidate Chernega, thank you very much for that. We do appreciate it. We will now move on to candidate John Paul Danko.
Thank you. Hopefully you recognize me without a mask. I am John Paul Danko, Hamilton City Councillor for Ward 8. It has been a tremendous honor to serve as your elected representative these past 4 years, and I am so very proud of the significant achievements that we've made for Ward 8. I have initiated major investments in roads and sidewalks, parks, playgrounds, recreation facilities, and roadway safety. And we're finally holding absentee landlords accountable with rental licensing. Council has also made critical decisions not to extend the urban boundary, to support new affordable housing, and develop a comprehensive climate change action plan. Of course, COVID-19 remains the most severe public health crisis of the past century. From the early days of staying at home to mass vaccination clinics, Hamilton's response to COVID and our ongoing recovery has been a defining issue of this term. My priorities for the next term include supporting and enhancing family-friendly neighborhoods, reducing the financial burden on residential taxpayers by focusing on economic growth and job opportunities, and continuing further investments in roadway safety while improving transportation options and investing in infrastructure. In my first term on council, I have demonstrated proven leadership for our communities, building a reputation as an effective and influential leader, and I will continue working closely with residents, colleagues, senior management, and staff to achieve results for Ward 8. I am running for re-election to continue the work that we've started, making Ward 8 a better place to raise a family, to grow, live, work, and age with dignity and grace. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, candidate Danko. We will now move on to candidate Anthony Frazina.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Cable 14, for hosting these debates with all candidates for the upcoming election. My name is Anthony Frazina, and I'm running for City Council here in Ward 8. I am a proud Hamiltonian living in Ward 8 for the last 10 plus years. I am an employee of Mohawk College and McMaster University. I also founded Above and Beyond, which started right here at Cable 14 as a TV show. I am thankful for the community that embraced my vision to bridge the gap to accessibility and inclusion within Hamilton and beyond. I am an accessibility advisor for Hamilton's bid for the 2030 Commonwealth Games. I am on the advisory committee for persons with disabilities and many subsequent subcommittees for the city of Hamilton. I am an alumni of distinction at Mohawk College, carried the Pan Am Games torch in 2015, and was named to the Order of Hamilton in 2020. I am also a person with a visible physical disability, using a wheelchair to navigate the community, having been born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus. So why am I running for council? To bring fresh, new, and exciting ideas to Ward 8, and by extension, the city of Hamilton. The percentage of people with disabilities in Hamilton is greater than the provincial and national averages. The abundance of potential and opportunity in Hamilton for this demographic has gone untapped, and we have the opportunity for fundamental, systemic, and culture change that is inclusive to all. I believe all decisions need to be made with recommendations and solutions offered by a combination of those with expertise, lived experiences, and through the lens of inclusion to ensure collective prosperity. My campaign has been far from conventional. In an era of change, innovation is important. I remain and always have been committed to actively listening to the community. I am in the community and I welcome continually hearing from you by phone, email, and social media. Within the disability community, we have a saying which translates to everyone: nothing about us without us. I am Anthony Frazina, and I'm running for City Council in Ward 8.
Thank you very much for that, candidate Frazina. We will now continue on with candidate Daniel Veltri. Please take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to applaud all candidates for running in this election because we want to make a difference for the city, and that's safe to say. Thank you to Cable 14, the SPEC, CHCH, and everyone involved. I'm running this election not only because I want to see change and help Hamilton be the best that it can be. I'm focused on road safety, housing, and transit. But not only that, I want to work with all of the council members and seriously focus on making a difference. These past couple of years have been devastating for a lot of Hamiltonians. The cost of everything is way too high, and people are barely making ends meet. And for the younger generation that's coming up, looking to purchase a home is becoming more out of reach. We need to make this city better, stronger than it's ever been. So please get out on October 24th and vote. I'm listening, Hamilton, because Hamilton together, we can do better. Thanks.
Thank you to each of our candidates for those opening statements. It's greatly appreciated. Now we will bring in our local media panel. With us again for this debate are Fallon Hewitt from the Hamilton Spectator and, of course, Al Sweeney from CHCH News. Each of our reporters will be choosing a candidate to answer a question, and then other candidates can ask to respond. Please make sure you indicate quickly to me and clearly if you want to. All of these responses will be limited to 1 minute. Of course, I will be giving a warning when time has run out. Our first question comes from the Spectators. Helen Hewitt, take it away.
Thank you. My first question is for John Paul Danko. So council has decided to freeze the urban boundary. What do you think is the best way to achieve more density in your ward while also balancing that with the concerns raised by your constituents?
That's just a fantastic question. Freezing the urban boundary, I think, was a watershed moment for the city of Hamilton. We set the standard for the province of Ontario for responsible growth management. We're still looking to see what the province is going to do there, but it's going to require some pretty significant changes to how we plan our communities. Council has approved an end to exclusionary zoning, allowing for more development within neighborhoods, more affordable housing, rental units. But it also means utilizing spaces that right now are very underutilized. I'm thinking about places like the Upper James Corridor, where there's going to be significant new infill growth along those types of almost a blank canvas, and Ward 8 is going to be a big part of that. I think my priority as the Ward 8 councillor is making sure that the growth that is improved is actually accenting and improving our local communities, that it's not seen as negative, and the good quality development is the key.
Thank you for that response. Open for discussion if other candidates would like to get involved. I'm seeing no hands at this point. We'll give you another minute then if you like. Candidate Danko, if you'd like to add to that.
Well, the freeze of the urban boundary is, came after a very significant process through grids and is the follow-up to the previous development planning process. And the debate really started when we sent out a survey to every single resident in the city of Hamilton. We got 18,000 responses, a level of engagement which is unprecedented. I got, I think, 8,000 emails just alone on this. And the response rate was overwhelmingly telling council to freeze the urban boundary. The former Environment Commissioner of Ontario has described the urban boundary and sprawl development as Ontario's tar sands. And Hamilton, like I said, has taken a leadership role across the province, setting the standard for responsible growth.
Thank you very much for that response. We will continue on now from CHCH. Mr. Al Sweeney, your question, who are you directing it to, please?
I'll direct this question to Daniel, please. You touched on this in your opening remarks, and it follows on to the discussion of the urban boundary. We're in a housing crisis, as everybody knows. The dream of owning a home is disappearing for many people, young people especially. Even if you have a good job, you can't afford a house at these prices. Many people are also struggling to pay the rent. As a city councillor, what do you think the city can actually do to help people, and what would you do about it?
I would like to see more tiny houses being built. Like the cost, if you can get the tiny homes in there, like a smaller home into a backyard of somebody's house, like they're allowed to do, then we can start getting people off the streets as well. So I'd like to see, like, there's too many big houses being built, like for richer folks, as opposed to the younger people that are just struggling to make ends meet. They can't buy a house. So making tinier homes affordable, that's what I'd like to see.
Thank you very much for that response. A couple people would like to get involved with this. Candidate Danko?
Thank you. I really appreciate that response from Daniel. The housing crisis in Hamilton is where the average cost of a home is over $1 million. That's double of what the average family income in Hamilton can afford. And it's not just purchasing a house outright, it's also the cost of rent. They have increased astronomically to a level that is completely unaffordable for even a modest 1 or 2 bedroom accommodation. Housing affordability, of course, is a complex problem. Not all the solutions are at the municipal level. We are using every lever available to us to increase the supply of housing and reduce costs. Things like ending inclusionary zoning, licensing rentals to discourage speculative absentee landlords, and improve conditions for tenants. We are licensing short-term rentals, Airbnbs, to increase the supply of long-term rentals. We're taxing vacant homes, and we're developing family-friendly housing policy to encourage and regulate more 2 and 3 bedroom units.
Candidate Frazina.
Thank you. And to Daniel's point and to John Paul Danko's point, it is important that affordable housing be more accessible and available to those who require it. One homeless person is one homeless person too many in our city, and we need to work together and collectively as council to ensure that that is reduced to eradicated.
Thank you for that. Candidate Brown?
This topic is very important to me where it comes to housing. We have to think out of the box when it comes to affordable housing. I do like the idea of the tiny homes. I feel that there are great people doing great things in our city. Indwell is another organization, but we still have to think out of the box. A thought that came to me was we just came out of a pandemic and we have a lot of empty buildings in our city, whether it's on the mountain or it's downtown. The thought that I was thinking of was converting some of the buildings that we have into housing, utilizing those, could be even churches. I've even spoken to a couple of pastors that are not opening their doors, so we have some churches that are available, so converting them into apartments for the homeless even.
Candidate Brown, thank you very much for that. Candidate John Paul, you'd like to get in again?
Thank you. This is just such an important topic. I could stay on this all night. I think it's also important as a city for us to have direct investment in affordable housing. With my leadership, the city has invested $17 million to new, purpose-built, family-friendly affordable housing right here in Ward 8. We've partnered with Victoria Park Community Homes and Kiwanis, nonprofit affordable housing providers, to provide brand new purpose-built affordable housing units.
Thank you for that. Joshua, you'd like to get in?
I agree with everyone around the table that we need to have more affordable housing in our city. We need to have a better plan going forward. During the pandemic, we saw many of our homeless on the streets, being in shacks in the parks, being taken out of those parks and placed in places, who knows where they ended up in some of these cases. And I've seen some pretty sad situations. Microhousing is a great idea, and I think it's one idea that the city really needs to focus on. But I also think the city needs to immediately put a stop to closing city housing. We have sold off many of our city housing properties in the last 5 years, and that needs to stop right now. We need to put a stop to it now until we have the solution in place. It's great to talk about all of the wonderful things that are going on and all of the money that we're investing, but those houses aren't being built right now, and we have people living on our streets that shouldn't be on our streets in our great city.
Thank you. Yes, Candidate Beltry.
Yeah, I just want to also say that it's great that we want to get these houses built, but it takes way too long for their approval to get them done. So something needs to change there, and yeah.
Thank you very much for that final word on that particular topic. We will continue to move on now. And again, thank you very much to our viewers who are watching at home live right now, tweeting us at Cable14 or emailing election@cable14.com. This viewer says September 15th was Take Back the Night, a time for Hamilton to come together to speak out against the powers that threaten our safety in public spaces, particularly walking the streets at night. If elected, what will you do to ensure survivors of sexual violence in Hamilton can receive timely supports from their local community-based sexual assault center? And I'm seeing that that question is actually directed to start off to Joshua.
For me, I believe that it's time our city to reinvest in our public health system. During COVID, we have used up our budget in public health. I've spoken with public health nurses who have told me when they've asked to restart certain services in our city, they've been told that there is no money for those services. And those are the people we need to get reinstated. Money needs to be put immediately back into public health. We need to work on our crisis situation that we have there.
Thank you for that response. Candidate Danko.
Thank you, and appreciate the discussion. I think investing in response to sexual violence and making sure that everyone feels safe in our communities also requires an investment in our public spaces. And through my term in council, we've invested in new lighting and pathways and ways to make people that are out and about in ways that they haven't been before COVID feel comfortable in their own communities.
Thank you for that response. Candidate Frazina, and then we'll get to Candidate Brown.
Thank you, Mike. And to Councillor Danko's point, it is important that we invest in proper lighting, proper open spaces, proper accessibility, proper availability to ensure that our spaces are safe for residents at all times of day, and so that we also include the fact that there are availability for when situations happen for people to go to at all times of day.
Candidate Brown, your response?
I agree with everybody. I believe that there was a story that came out, the Paradise Stairs. There was a woman who got assaulted, the Dundurn, I believe it was the Dundurn Stairs. And I believe that the suggestion was to have cameras or lighting. I would suggest to have cameras and lighting along the Dundas stairs. For women, it's very important that it's not just about lighting, it's having the security and feeling that you're safe, having the cameras there, because it's happened too many times along the Paradise Stairs and the Dundurn crosswalk.
Thank you for that response. We will give Joshua, we'll give you the final word as it was directed to you originally.
Again, I agree that there's much needed to be done in the city. We need better lighting. All those things that were said around the table are truly what's needed in our city. But I do believe, truthfully, that if we are going to help those people who are victims of sexual violence in our city, we need to get our public health back on track with the proper funding that they need to do their jobs to help everyone in our city.
Thank you for that response. She's back from the Hamilton Spectator. Fallon Hewitt.
Thank you. My question is for Anthony Frazina. So Ward 8 has the most dangerous intersection for pedestrians in the city over the last 5 years at Upper James and Fennell Avenue. It's the top 3 for most serious car crashes overall as well. What should the city and ward councillor do to make it safer for all vulnerable road users?
I think, and thank you for the question, I think it's important that we look at various safety measures such as the speed, the traffic, and the way the lanes are put together. We must maybe reduce lanes or increase lanes. We must have to look at different ways to provide solutions so everybody is safe in that corridor.
Candidate Danko.
Thank you. Roadway safety is by far the most consistent issue that's raised by Ward 8 residents. In 2019, I initiated the Ward 8 Complete Streets Roadway Safety Project. This is the most comprehensive roadway safety initiative ever undertaken in the city of Hamilton. Its 3 wards are now doing their own review following suit. I've funded $1.3 million already approved for phase 1 and 2 work that is underway now. A total of $1.85 million funded for the total investment is what's estimated. Right now, we're underway in phase 1, and phase 2 will be beginning this fall. And that's one project that I'm very much looking forward to seeing follow through if I'm lucky enough to be reelected in the fall.
Thank you for that response. No one else wants to get involved with that. We will continue to move on then. From CHCH News, you see him on the weekend, and tonight you're seeing him here on Cable 14. It's Al Sweeney. He's back.
Thanks, Mike. So, Josh, I'll pose this question to you if I could, since you work in schools. It's partly involved with schools. The statue of Sir John A. Macdonald was torn down in downtown Hamilton. He is the founder of Canada, the founder of our country, but he did make some egregious mistakes, did terrible things to Indigenous people. And we also have word today of one of the school boards in Ontario, not around here, advising teachers not to discuss the death of the Queen with students. What would you do if that kind of an issue came in front of City Council?
I think that it's important that we recognize the triggers in our society today and our children. Our students are coming back to us after a pandemic, facing a lot of mental health issues that we don't normally see, that we don't normally deal with in our schools. And I think what the school board that you're speaking about is trying to find a way to eliminate any extra triggers that might cause students to feel disheartened or not understand what's going on. I don't necessarily agree with their choice, because I do believe that as a constitutional monarchy in our country, we do need to have some recognition of a woman who has passed away, who has shared a great life in our city, and a great life. She's visited Hamilton many times in her time. But I think that we need to look at ways to do it in a more kind way, because I think students right now need less traumatic stuff happening to them. And if we start to demonstrate traumatic events in a bad way, it's going to cause them more heartache than what we actually have the supports to give them right now in our communities.
Sonia Brown?
Being born in England myself, I give honor to the Queen for all that she's done, and I feel this is a teaching moment for all students, for everyone. I feel that this is a great opportunity for teachers. We all go through grief at some point or another. So for teachers, take this opportunity to teach our children. The monarch, that it's very important. It's important for our leaders when somebody passes. This is a teachable moment for our children to let them know what this monarch, what this queen did for over 70 years. For 73 years, she was in power. And so, yeah, this is a teachable moment. And I believe teachers should take advantage of that.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Danko.
Thank you. The issue of the Sir John A. Macdonald statue was quite difficult for council. I voted against the removal of the statue, not because I was against having the statue removed, but because there was already a process in place through the Urban Indigenous Strategy to review all our landmarks and monuments. We now have a final recommendation, and that is to have that statue permanently removed and to have our Indigenous leaders go through a ceremony on site to cleanse the area. And I fully support those recommendations. I think as a city, we can definitely do more to incorporate Indigenous teaching, culture, and artwork into city policy or services and projects. And there are two examples of those right here in Ward 8. The Olmsted site, which is converted to a traditional tall grass prairie with consultation with our Indigenous communities. And also, as we're looking at Sam Lawrence Park, incorporating Indigenous artwork and cultural teachings into the rehabilitation work.
Mr. Danko, thank you for that. Last word goes to Joshua as the question was posed to you.
I'm very much a big proponent of our students' mental health, and I will be on Monday recognizing the Queen's contribution in my classroom, and will be encouraging my teachers to do the same. But I feel that we need to do it in a way that the students understand the importance of her role, not necessarily in the portion of dying in our classrooms.
Thanks to all for responding to that particular question. Viewers at home, they continue to send us questions. Thank you very much. They've been sending them to election@cable14.com. So if you have one, send it in to us. This question reads, if elected, what will you be doing to champion improving transit in the ward and the mountain in general? How will you be working to ensure that LRT is extended along the full blast network? And I see that that question is being posed to candidate Sonia Brown.
For the LRT, I do believe that the HSR should be in charge of running the LRT. To expand it, we do need expansion on the mountain. A couple of thoughts that came to me was having, I just realized that we have at Mohawk College, there is actually a place where you can take the bus from Mohawk College. And I feel that if you had the LRT even stop there, or a bus to link with Mohawk College to take you downtown and then out to wherever you're going, I think it would be great.
Wonderful. Thank you for that response. We've got two other people that would like to get involved with this. Mr. Danko.
Thank you. Now that LRT construction is starting next year, my focus is A-Line rapid transit and getting the mountain ready for rapid transit from the waterfront to the airport. We have $8.5 million of investment in A-Line, looking at transit priority signals, improving signal service headways on that route, and building up ridership so that we can be ready for rapid transit. We're committed to the 10-year local transit strategy, more than $500 million of investment in HSR services through the Re-Envision campaign, readjusting all of the bus routes across the city. And I think we can't talk about transit without talking about area rating for transit. I am committed to ending area rating for transit because Ward 8 taxpayers have been paying 3% extra on every property tax bill for the last 20 years due to area rating for transit, and it's time to end that inequity so that we can properly fund transit across the entire city.
Candidate Frazina, your response.
Thank you. We have to definitely improve car share services, HSR, DARTs, as well as cab services to ensure that people get to their locations where and when they need to be in a timely fashion. I love the opportunity to instill an Uber type a service to ensure people with disabilities are able to get to where they need to be as well. In Ward 8 alone, 75% of residents drive themselves to work. We need to ensure public transit becomes more prevalent and available to residents of Ward 8 and by extension in Hamilton. 10% use public transit and 5% use active transportation such as walking and cycling. Thank you.
Candidate Danko, you'd like to respond?
Thank you. And just, again, this is such a wonderful discussion tonight. I just really appreciate it. Our city will grow by more than 250,000 people over the next 30 years. We simply cannot fit that many cars on the existing roadways. We have to make a modal shift to transit, and the only way that we can do that is funding those investments now and making sure that we build up the ridership. And as a city, as a council, that is our commitment.
Thank you very much for that. Candidate Brown, if you like, you can have final word. Wonderful. Okay, that is all the time we have for our questions and answers for our Ward 8 candidates. Thank you again to our wonderful media colleagues for participating. Now, to our open forum, where we will give as many candidates as we can a minute to direct a question to one other candidate. That candidate will have a chance to respond, and then we will open the floor to other brief comments. I will let you know when your time is up and to move on. We drew numbers ahead of tonight's broadcast to determine the order for the segment. Daniel Veltri, you are up first. Your question and who you're directing it to, please.
So my question is to Mr. Danko. So in the middle of a pandemic, you had 300 workers fired for doing what they believe in, putting them out of work with families, kids to feed.
Sorry, that's not true.
And do you regret your decision, and would you do it again?
That is absolutely false. Workers were not fired. That decision was reviewed and ultimately rescinded. I think when we're talking about vaccination policy in the city of Hamilton, I think we need to go back to the beginning of COVID. This is the most severe public health crisis of the past century. If we think back to the start of this pandemic, where we were at, when we were stockpiling food to stay at home, when we were concerned about our loved ones or the elderly, the most vulnerable in our communities, that's what vaccination mandates are about. And I absolutely stand by my decisions. And as a council, I am extremely proud of how we came together in order to face this adversity. Again, unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Any response to that? Further discussion? No? Okay, we will continue on. Thank you very much for that question and the response. Next question will be coming from candidate Anthony Frazina.
Thank you, Mike. And my question is also to candidate Danko. At the beginning of COVID, a temporary decision was made by the HSR for those using accessible door-to-door transit service in Hamilton called DARTS. A companion was now required for the person with a mobility device, such as a wheelchair, to travel for essential trips using DARTS. The DARTS vehicle operator was required, the HSR vehicle operator was instructed to advise the companion on how to open and shut the ramp for an individual to enter and exit the vehicle. Seatbelts on the wheelchair and close the ramp as well. This posed a question of safety and liability to the companion, to the individual. This person was an untrained companion, and should an infraction occur. If this person with a mobility device didn't have a companion, the contingency plan was for DARTS could be scheduled within an hour, be picked up and dropped off at the bus stop rather than their home. The contingency plan was also severely impacted to those bus stops who use HSR as well. And regular drivers would cause bottleneck traffic with DARTS vehicles on and offloading a person in a wheelchair.
Is there a question coming, candidate Frazina?
Yeah. If you were reelected, how would you change this topic of unilateral decision with consultation of those with lived experience?
So once again, I would not change my decisions that I reached during the COVID pandemic. This was a crisis unseen in our lifetimes. We were making emergency decisions to try to serve our residents the best that we could. The Emergency Operations Center made, those kinds of calls as they had to in order to respond to the crisis that was unfolding at the time. And I sincerely apologize that was difficult for residents. It was difficult for everybody. But again, we need to think back to the beginning of the COVID pandemic and how serious this was. This was a novel virus that was never before seen in human populations. And it was something that we were all adapting to and trying to suit the needs of residents while facing the reality of combating this very severe health threat to everyone.
Thank you for that. A follow-up, candidate Frazina?
Thank you.
No, we're good. Okay, we will continue on then with a question coming from Joshua Chernega. Joshua, your question and who you are sending it to, please.
I apologize, Mr. Danko, but obviously you are the incumbent and the question is going to come your way. Mr. Danko, I spent a good year and a half sitting as the vice chair of the Hamilton Farmers Market Board. In that time, I went through two public consultations where a private firm was brought in to consult for the city. After having three private consultant firms giving reports prior to that. The city is known for hiring private consultants to do the work of city workers. People we supposedly hire that we trust to give us advice, yet we often go to the outdoors. How many more millions of dollars are you willing to, and it's great that you're spending money in your ward, but where's your vision for the rest of the city, and how many more millions of dollars are you willing to spend on private consultants when we have qualified people working in our city hall?
Thank you, and you're a saint for serving on the Farmers Market Board. There is a review of the governance policy, I think, of the governance of the farmers market. I think it's been described as dysfunctional. But let's talk about economic growth and job opportunities for Ward 8 residents. 73% of Ward 8 residents work within the city of Hamilton. Hamilton has one of the most diverse economies in Canada. We have institutional employment anchors in Ward 8, Mohawk College and St. Joseph's Healthcare. Upper James is a major business corridor, and I am focused on improving opportunities for Ward 8's highest population demographic, and that is residents in the 20 to 24-year-old population demographic. Talking to our friends at Leuna, they could hire 30,000 skilled workers right now if they are available. One of the biggest assets that we have as a city is access to human capital, and Mohawk College, located right in Ward 8, is one of the biggest trades training centers anywhere in Ontario, and one of the best. So we're also seeing extraordinary growth at the airport. And one of the most exciting developments in Hamilton in decades is at the Stelco lands. We're looking at 800 acres of new modern industrial, 12 million square feet of development, 23,000 new jobs, local new jobs, and up to $4 billion of economic growth for our city. That is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that is on par or even higher than steelmaking in Hamilton at its peak. And those are the opportunities that I am working hard to provide to Ward 8 residents.
Thank you for that response. Any follow-up to that?
Mr. Janko, with all due respect, you didn't answer my question. The city's spending millions of dollars a year on hiring private companies to consult for them when we have employees in our city. It's great, and I believe that Ward 8 is a very successful ward and will continue to be a very successful ward, whether it be under my leadership or anyone around this table. However, we need to build a city, not a ward. You are a member of City Council. You need to stand up for the entire city. So it's great to talk about a ward, but what is your plan and your vision for this city?
Thank you. So I think I already mentioned my vision and my plan for the city as a whole. On the issue of consultants, yes, we do hire experts in order to provide counsel and our staff advice. The fact is that our city is extremely lean. Our staff are working just flat out in order to provide the services that they do. And during COVID, once again, all those staff or many of those staff were reassigned to combating the pandemic. So they're extremely burned out. And we do rely on consulting reports for the expert advice that we require to make informed decisions.
Follow-up response, your chance to speak if you like to these particular questions? No? Okay. We will continue to move on then. Candidate Sonia Brown, your question and who you are posing it to, please.
So my question is going to go to John Paul. During the pandemic, even before, I reached out to you. I called. I own a residential care facility. If a lot of people don't know what that is, it's a home for individuals who are special needs, 24-hour care. And I was dealing with a situation whereby it was a site plan that the city wanted me to attain, which I went through committee of adjustments. I went through a lot of leaps and, took a lot of leaps and bounds to get myself heard and my residents safe. And I have to say, Councillor Whitehead at the time helped me a lot. I reached out to John Paul to see what he can do to help in this situation. To this day, I have not received a call back. I've been going around, and that was part of the reason why I decided to run, because when I was going door to door, speaking to the constituents, it was something that I was hearing a lot, that you are not returning people's calls. Can you explain why?
Well, I'm hearing the exact opposite. You know, Nicola, Shane, and I are a team, and we all have critical roles in the Ward 8 office. What I hear at the door every day is, I called your office with a problem, Nicola took care of it right away. Or I hear, you know what, Nicola's fantastic, you're so lucky to have her. We take our consultation, constituent engagement very seriously. You know, the role of counselor is really two jobs: your constituency work and your role as an executive on the corporation of the City of Hamilton. I could not do my job without our team in the Ward 8 office, and Nicola is by far the most important member of that team when it comes to helping constituents with those day-to-day issues. And it allows me to focus on council and committee responsibilities. You know, my role as a councillor, I serve on both Public Works and Planning Committee, which are by far the most intensive workloads in the city. I've been chair of both. I sit on 22 other subcommittees and advisory committees. And in more than 400 standing committees and council meetings this term, I've missed only 7 due to illnesses or family commitments. So I am very proud of my service to Ward 8. I'm one of the most dedicated and hardworking councillors there is. And with 35,000 residents, hundreds of emails and phone calls a day, I do my best to be as personally involved as I can be. But obviously, it is not possible for me to be personally involved in every situation. And Sonia, I am very sorry that you were not able to get the assistance that you feel you needed at the time. But I do recall that you went to the Committee of Adjustment, and then you appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I assume that that situation has been long rectified.
Although I appreciate what you're saying, it has not been resolved. So it would have been nice to get a phone call from you to see if it was rectified, and it was not. So, you know, Councillor Whitehead has visited my home 3 times. Monique Taylor has visited our home a couple times, and so I really appreciate them. I feel that as a councillor, a representative of my ward, and I'm the only residential care facility in your ward, that you would take the time to, with everything that's been going on with homelessness in Hamilton, I would feel that you would want to reach out and say, how are the residents, Sonia? How are they doing? How are they feeling during the pandemic? We had 2 outbreaks. And I lost staff, and I had residents that ended up with COVID. I did not receive a call from your office, from Nicola, who you trust, your secretary, or yourself. So, yeah, I'm disappointed.
Would you like to respond to that?
No.
Fair enough. You know what? With that said, we are going to continue to move on with John Paul Danko and your question to a candidate of your choosing.
Thank you. My question is not specifically to any one candidate, but maybe just an open question. Running for elected office is a big commitment, and winning can put your life on public display. The current political climate is extremely polarized and becoming more divisive. During this campaign, I've been chased down the street and screamed and yelled at on more than one occasion. And elected leaders face sometimes extreme criticism. Part of the job is talking to people that may vehemently oppose your stance on issues, but you still have to meet with constituents in person. You have to go to council meetings where there may be a gallery that's full of protesters. And of course, there's social media, which is relentless. So my question to each of the candidates, or whomever would like to respond, is how do you see yourself facing that kind of public scrutiny and criticism, and how would you respond?
Anthony?
Thank you. And thank you for the question. I think it's important that when speaking to the constituents of Ward 8, you are open, transparent, honest, and promote integrity and respect. Certainly, it's important that we listen to wholeheartedly what our constituents have to say and provide answers that are inclusive solutions so that everybody can prosper with the desired result as necessary.
Thank you for that. As it was an open question, if anybody else would like to throw in their thoughts or comments. Yes, Joshua.
As a teacher and as a principal or assistant principal, I spend every day dealing with people who have issues with my decisions that I make in my school, in my classroom. Those are the issues that are constantly there. The best way to deal with those issues is to listen to the people around you, to listen to those people, and to build consensus. We need to build common ground in this city. This is something that we're not doing well in this city. We continually fight around the council table for hours and hours. We make comments to people when we don't like their decisions. It's time in this city, that we build a vision that brings everyone together. We must work harder as a city council to bring everyone together. We must listen to everyone's opinion around the table, and we must find common ground with each other. And that's what I would do as a councillor, sitting around a table with different opinions. We have to do that going forward. Otherwise, our city is not going to move where it needs to move.
Thank you for that response. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I believe that there's too many heads at the city council. I think it should be reduced to 10. Make the wards bigger, as Ward 8's only 16,000 or like around that. Why not 30? I'd say
35,000.
Pardon me?
35,000.
Okay, well, it's mostly students, right? But either way,
No, it's not.
I'd like to run it north all the way down in the water, have it straight down. Because it's like you said, things aren't getting done. Maybe it will if there's shortened staff there. So that's my bit.
Thank you for that response. And it looks like, yes, please, Candidate Brown.
It was a great answer, Joshua. I feel that when you put yourself out there, like we all are, or putting ourselves out there, it doesn't give anybody the right to be heard, to be listened to. I think that's pretty well in council when I'm watching the fighting, and I just shake my head. But just to listen, I think it's so important that we listen to each other. I couldn't agree with you more. And to chase somebody down the street, no, that's not appropriate. Because, you're putting yourself out there like, John Paul did in the first 4 years. So, yeah.
Thank you for that response. And as I see no one else would like to get involved, we have actually a little bit of time left over. So what we are going to do for our candidates is have another question to be asked to each of you that has been submitted by one of our viewers, if you guys are all on board for that. And you'll have an opportunity to each respond if you like. Hamiltonians are concerned about the inner workings of the City Council, for example, collaborative and respectful interactions, prompt acknowledgement of constituent concerns, and attendance, something we don't always see or have not seen the last 4 years. What are your commitments to voters on these matters? Candidate Frazina, I see that it's actually been posed to you if elected.
Thank you. And I believe in accountability, availability, accessibility, and transparency. So if elected to Ward 8 City Council, I will do my very best to answer to all challenges. As a person with a disability, I have faced challenges my entire life. So for me, it's about putting together a collaborative plan with city staff to ensure that my availability is there to answer to the constituents of Ward 8.
Candidate Danko?
Thank you. And it's interesting that the discussion cycles back to the behavior of councilors and decorum. I come from the private sector where there's certain expectations for your interactions with your colleagues and with your staff. When I arrived on council, it was a surprise of what was acceptable there versus what is acceptable in the private sector. That lack of decorum really erodes public trust in our public institutions, and that's something that is so critical for our democracy, is that residents feel like and believe that their democratic institutions are effective, transparent, and they listen to what they have to say. You know, I was the first chair to ever eject a councillor from a meeting because of their behavior. And I believe that that started the new expectations for how councillors would behave in chambers and with each other. And that led directly to findings by the Integrity Commissioner against Councillor Whitehead. And that is something that I think with a new council, a new mayor, we have an opportunity to set new expectations for the next term.
To each of you, thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time has ran out. Once again, our candidates for Ward 8 are Sonia Brown, Joshua Chernega, John Paul Danko, Anthony Frazina, and Daniel Veltri. That's it for our Ward 8 debate. Remember, it's our vote, or our Hamilton, our vote, vote 2, and election day is October 24th. You can find everything you need to know, including a list of all the candidates running for City Council, as well as the public and Catholic school boards on the City of Hamilton website at hamilton.ca/elections. Please, I can't stress this enough. I've said it every night this week. Get out and vote, whether it's in person or by mail-in ballot. Then, join us that evening for all your local election results. This concludes our first week of debates here on Cable 14. We will be back on Tuesday, September the 19th with Wards 9 and 10 debates beginning at 7 p.m. Special thank you to all the candidates, our media colleagues, and our amazing production crew that have worked so hard to bring you these debates this week. I'm Mike Fortune. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Tuesday.
Tune into THN this month as we give you some of the events happening throughout the month.
Yeah, that's right. Lions Lair, also 12th year, Dave Carter Innovation Factory.
We'll also give you a chance to win tickets to Disney on Ice at First Ontario Centre.
Yeah, we look ahead to see what's going on with the hometown Hamilton Bulldogs.
Love it. All this and much more right here on the Hamilton Network. Visit cable14.com/THN for airtimes.